Welcome to our second session of REDtalks. This event is in collaboration with Emerging Markets Institute here at Johnson. We want to focus more on the emerging markets and how do they help entrepreneurs achieve what their own objective is, at the same time help the markets in those geographical locations. And the lineup of speakers that we have today and the topics that they're going to touch base on are really interesting in terms of giving the perspective for you, whether you want to tomorrow work in these markets or not. So we have a couple of alumni also with us, but we're just fixing our issues with the speakers here, and they will be with us in no time. But let's just get started. And our first current student speaker for today is Subhi, and let's call her.
Hey, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. And this session of REDtalks is more special because this is in collaboration with EMI. And I, along with Kalyan and Saurabh, are the chair for EMI JCT cohort 23. So I'm really very excited that all of you showed interest in this session. So without any further delay, I think I'll start. And first, I'll ask one question from you guys. Imagine having 1.38 billion people population and bringing them on a same page to work on a single product, to use a single product. Hard to imagine, isn't it? Well, this product, UPI in India did that and basically revolutionized the heavily cash reliant economy of India to go cashless or to go digital. And this is the product I'm going to talk about today, how UPI transformed the entire digital sector and brought India as one of the emerging markets in the fintech industry. So just to give you some context, here is a slide which says that by 2023, the India digital payments will go to US $1 trillion. Well, you know what? It already achieved this mark in 2022. Like in the middle, it already did that. So you can imagine the growth of this product. And just to give you a background, there were multiple attempts to go cashless in India. But as I mentioned, huge population, diverse people, various income buckets, but bringing them together on one page was super difficult. The UX was difficult for people who were less educated to use it. And hence this product, the mission was simple. They will let the banks do what they do best, which was to manage money. They will just provide the infrastructure to transfer money from one bank to another. You might think that you already use such kind of apps here in US as well. However, this app doesn't store money like you have a separate account in Venmo and just have money there. Through UPI, you just transfer through the interface through various apps which use the UPI interface. You can just transfer your money from one bank to another within seconds, which I don't think many of you might have seen here. So the objective was simple, easily used on mobile, very easy UX, and could be, since the cell phone prices, the mobile data prices were so cheap, it was easy to implement throughout. Okay. So you might get some idea about the product for now, but what is the product actually? This is an API or an architecture on top of which all the banking apps, all the other apps in integration with some of the very famous ones, which I would like to name, like Google, Amazon, PhonePe, few other, WhatsApp. So all these apps integrated with UPI to bring a seamless digital transaction in India. So these are few of the things which I mentioned. One of the things which was very interesting was this API was free to use for everyone. So this is backed by government of India, and this is an organization which is basically an NGO and backed by government of India. So the API is actually free to develop on top. So all the apps which have used this API, this was free to use. All the developers could just simply build on top of this architecture, which was already provided to them. So which was easy and very convenient. And as I mentioned, you can see just in a year time how the use of credit card reduced and the use of UPI continued to grow till 21, and it keeps on growing. And few of the integrations which I can show, like these are few of the banking apps, but at the same time, you can see Google Pay, Amazon Pay, which integrated using the UPI architecture to launch their apps in India. Also, just to add, if you might have read or listened to our professor about the Porter's 5 forces, there was no competition because every app was using this architecture below. So there was literally no competition. It's a monopoly and it's free for everyone. So it's a win-win for everyone. Just to cover some facts and figures, 323 live banks use this architecture beneath. 66 apps have been built using UPI, and as of now, since 2016, 460 billion transactions have been done via UPI, which is crazy. And till May 2022, 350 million monthly active users were using UPI. And just to conclude, as I mentioned, some of the very big numbers, but at the base, it was very easy to use. The UX was simple. And because of some of the very successful integrations within India, for example, Google Pay, these guys have set up their international payments branches, and now UPI is being launched in many countries. One of them is Malaysia, which has started building their app on top of UPI architecture. So that is something good and probably worth looking at in the coming future. Hence, this was a product which I wanted to discuss how UPI brought India as one of the emerging markets in fintech industry. Whereas before 2016, you might have not heard about any Indian product being on a global level. So something to watch out, and I'm super proud of this product. And just to mention at the end, this research which I did was along with my teammates in my core team for my 4P presentation. So I just want to give a huge round of applause for Nikhil, Gino, and Stanton. Thank you so much.
Yeah, our next speaker for today is Bahia Yafi. She's an executive MBA alum from 2022 batch. She runs the innovation group at Yafi Group, and she's been heavily invested in the intellectual property area, and she is passionate about mentoring budding entrepreneurs and guiding them in this area as well as technology. So without further ado, I would want her to go ahead and take it over.
Thank you so much for the generous introduction. My name is Bahia Yafi. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm glad you're all interested in emerging markets. So a bit about me. I'm an entrepreneur. I started with the family business, as you can see from the family name. The family business works in intellectual property, and I saw that there are so many issues with IP. Can any one of you take a guess of what's the average portfolio size for an American company, an average trademark portfolio size? So we set up something called Easy Trademarks. We empower companies that want to protect their trademarks in high growth, high risk emerging markets. I'm going to give you an example of what happened. A client comes up to us 8 years ago and tells us, oh, I changed my business name and I would like to record that change in some country in Africa. We're like, okay, easy. We don't have an office there. We use someone there we've used for a while, and we recorded that change. Now we have to renew their trademark. When it came time to renew the trademark, we went to the registry, and guess what? The change was not recorded. The local got gave us a fake certificate, did not record any change. The client had to pay for the change twice with penalties. This means this client could have lost their house brand. Imagine Coke not owning Coke in a big country like Egypt. This is what Easy Trademark solves for. We give access to the government directly. You don't need a middleman. So from one end, we help the brand owners protect, enforce, maintain, and grow their portfolios. And then from another end, because we have local relationships, which is very helpful in emerging markets. It's actually key to success. We help governments streamline, standardize, and automate their processes. In Jordan, 2 years ago, they launched an online portal to file your trademark. They stopped it 6 months later. Can you take a guess why? Anyone? They were receiving too many applications. Who would not want more work? The Jordanian government decided they do not want to deal with it. They stopped the online portion and now only accept applications manually. So what does this do to a US trademark owner with a 10,000 trademark portfolio in the Middle Eastern countries? You have to rely on someone local. And this is what we're trying to avoid. So we're removing bureaucracy, we're removing the time, we're creating technologies for local governments to make sure that it's transparent, there's governance, and there are no restrictions for anyone who wants to pay. Anyone who wants to pay and deal with the local laws. So we're giving them basically a reliable solution. We started this, we've been thinking about this for a couple of years, but we launched this right before. And actually 2019, we did a video and won a pitch competition with the EMI. And this is when we're like, okay, let's take this forward. And we saw a lot of governments were very interested in it because of COVID. So COVID actually helped with this solution being more acceptable. We have access to data so we can give insights to our clients, and all clients are looking for cheaper prices. And because we're tech-based, it's taking on. So we started working in the Middle East. So our key markets are Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE, and each for a different reason. Egypt, it's because of the population is so big. It's a growing economy. Their inflation is also very high, but it's one of the economies that kept growing even with COVID. It's very inexpensive to set up there, and there's a lot of room for exporting because production is cheap. Its location is great to Europe, great to Asia, and great to the US. So we believe that Egypt will be a hub, and it's a hub into Africa. So that's why Egypt. With Egypt, we target local companies, local entrepreneurs who are interested in protecting their trademarks there. With Saudi Arabia, we work a lot with the government and governmental projects. So there's a public investment fund called PIF that has great goals to create innovations that are coming from Saudi Arabia. So we help them with identifying what innovations they should be investing in, how much to pay for them, and so on. And within the UAE, I don't know if anyone has been to the UAE, but it's an amazing place. It looks like Singapore or Vegas. You can go walk around freely. So a lot of companies set up their hubs in the UAE and operate in the market, in the regional market. So we are targeting UAE for all the companies who are setting up their IP holding companies in the UAE because it's very low tax brackets or low tax zone. They increased them recently, but it's a good place to set up a business for efficient taxation purposes. And yeah, that's what markets we're targeting. With emerging markets, I just wanted to add that working in emerging markets is great, but you also need a couple of key competencies or key personality traits that you don't have to have when you're working in other markets. Adaptability for me is the most important because nothing is constant in emerging markets. And because you're working with governments or bigger players, or there is rule of law, but it's very fluid. Being adaptable and thinking on your feet is very important in emerging markets, and hedging your bets. They're very high growth markets, but they're also very high risk markets. So knowing when to do something and strategically planning is hard. It's a skill that you will learn, and you will have to keep moving and keep tweaking because the market is always changing. It's very exciting. If anyone's interested in the Middle East market in general, so Middle East, North Africa, Turkey, please reach out. It would be great to talk to you and give you my insights about the market. So that's about me.
Thank you, Bahia, for that wonderful presentation. We now move on to our next speaker. And sir.
Yeah, I'm so excited to announce our next speaker, Laloy. She's actually a Cornell Johnson Tech graduate in 2019. She holds a bachelor's degree in systems and industrial engineering from Mexico. And currently she is a director working in program management for blockchain and crypto, which I understand many people in our cohort are excited to hear. Yeah, so without further ado, Laloy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah, and thank you for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to come and talk about my experience in emerging markets as a Mexican woman. I think that it's been a really interesting journey for me. I've been working in MasterCard for almost 9 years. I only took the break for my MBA, and I think that it's been wonderful. It's an industry that I really enjoyed, and I have a lot of experience in Latin America, specifically Mexico and Central America. That were the markets where I really focused on. So I'm sorry I didn't brought any slides. I was more about to talk up. I wanted to talk to you about my experience and my passion, and how I ended up where I am right now, that it's crypto, that it's like a lot of interesting. I want to demystify some of that. So coming from an emerging market, I started in Mexico, working with banks and with MasterCard, getting into the payment, and that will really open my mind to other industries. And like, I really will find probably another passion, because sometimes you just start working in something. And I came here to Cornell Tech, and I realized that I was very in love with the payments industry. But what really surprised me when I was in Cornell Tech, it was the little that I knew about fintechs in Mexico. So we had a fintech track. We went to Israel. I saw all the innovation that was happening in Israel. I saw everything that was going on in India, even in the US. There's like so much fintech around that. And I realized I knew very little about Mexico and Latin America in that space. So that's where I came back to Mexico to MasterCard. And I started to see my country and my region with a fresh eyes and with a fresh perspective. I saw that Latin America, it's huge. Like, we have many people, like 660 million people living in Latin America, which gives like a huge scaling opportunity for a lot of companies. Of course, starting with banking, there's a high digitalization of, like, in the users, like there's a lot of smartphones out there. There's a very good Wi-Fi infrastructure in most of the countries right now. But there's also a very high population that it's underbanked or unbanked. So that combination between a lot of digital experience, but very low like banking, that immediately opens the opportunity for a lot of things to happen on that market. And if then you add up, there's like an 80% of transactions in Latin America that are done in cash, you see that potential, right? So when people ask me as well, like, what's your competition, Visa, Amex, we don't talk about that 20% that it's in digital payments. We talk about the 80% that it's not covered yet, and how can we get and expand that pie for everyone and get into that. So seeing and realizing that in Latin America really like exploded my brain, and I was very interested in getting to know how we were tackling that problem. We at Mastercard, we work with banks, so working with banks and talking to them, we realized that their infrastructure, it's very old in general. The databases, the way they have currently their systems, they were a little bit out of date. And there was all these fintechs emerging with new technology, with a fresh approach, with seeing this huge opportunity, getting a lot of funding because the VCs as well saw the huge potential that it has. It was a huge problem from a tech perspective, a huge opportunity for users. So that's why like fintech in Latin America suddenly started expect its regulation and laws. I think that it's very localized. So Mexico has its own regulation, and when you touch money everywhere, it's like very important, like the legal aspect. But we saw in Latin America countries really adopting very quickly legal frameworks. In Mexico, we launched the Mexican fintech law in 2018. Colombia launched a very similar law to Mexico, Brazil as well. So having this regulator framework, the opportunity and the new tech, that combination really, it's been like critical for us to get and bring more services and better services to the community. And of course, COVID came and it really accelerated the process to adopt this. And we've seen in the past 3 years, fintechs in Latin America doubled in size. They are doubling in size in different type of companies, in consumer-facing companies, like the ones that we know, Nubank, Fondeadora, Mercado Libre, all of them facing consumers. We're also seeing business-facing companies that are targeting SMBs or big companies with corporate credit cards, with infrastructure, with payments infrastructure. They're like really exploding as well. And we have the enablers. That is something that is critical for the fintech industry to come together. So all the enablers, the infrastructure players that can enable these programs to really go there and like explode. That's a third part that we've seen that it's growing a lot. And right now, I think for last year, we have around 2,500 fintechs just in Latin America. So that's a huge number from the number that we came before. And we have fintechs like Nubank that recently became the largest bank in the world with 33 billion million users, and with a 20 billion valuation currently in the stock market. So I think that's something that really got me excited. And from my perspective in the payments industry, I was really interested in getting closer into fintechs. So I worked in my previous role in Mexico, I was working with them, helping them scale, helping them like set up for success, and really getting to that opportunity that we saw, that it's not the affluent people, it's the people that really needs different services, and that you can really make a difference, not only at their lives, but also at a society level. That's something that really I'm really connected to. So when I started digging into fintech, I think that naturally you just like get into the rabbit hole of crypto. And that's how I get on in crypto and blockchain. We saw the same type of setting. We saw a lot of opportunity, a lot of tech, but also a lot of cross-border remittances. There are around 100 billion remittances of inflows, P2P, so person to person, coming to the US. So I think that it was like a huge opportunity and a lot of volatility in the currencies. Of course, we can talk about Chile, Argentina, Venezuela, all the macroeconomics that are surrounding LAC are making crypto possible and a very feasible opportunity for us to keep growing. So in a study that we run in MasterCard, it says like around 20% of Latin American adults have already joined the ecosystem in some way. They bought a crypto, they open a wallet, they are part of an exchange, they're kind of getting, so that's 1 in 5 Latin American adults. And other 22% are on their way. So they kind of heard about these, they are interested, they want to learn more. And we also, like in that study that this was very relevant, we also found out that people want more regulation. And probably you saw what happened the last couple of months with 3 Arrows Capital, Celsius, Terra and Luna. I think that people want to get in, but in a safe way that they can trust as well their money and where they're putting their money. So that's why I got me very excited. I got into the rabbit hole of crypto. I started like studying more and more and understanding how can we really take advantage of the technology and seeing amazing use cases in Latin America. We see Argentina in Argentina, there's a huge market for stable coins. In fact, you can pay in stable coins. There are like locations where they accept stable coins. There are payrolls that people get paid in stable coins. And they are like, there's a huge market for that in Argentina. And it's a good way for people to just protect their savings and their lifestyle in a good way. Before, they couldn't open a dollars account. I think the cap was like $200 a month. Now with stable coins, you can open a dollars account anywhere in the world. In Mexico, we couldn't open a dollars account. It's not part of the services that we receive. Currently, I have my Bitso app with my dollars, USDC dollars account inside that, so I can save money on a stable coin that it's pegged to the dollar. We see the same case in Venezuela. Venezuela, with everything that is going on at the macro level, people are adopting stable coins in a very quickly way. It's not about the CBDC and what they used to call before. It's more about adopting these stable. Their money is not losing value. So I think that's a huge potential in Venezuela. And of course, we can talk about El Salvador. I could talk about El Salvador like for a long time, but we see this. He pitches, his wallet and his startup to the world, and he's becoming this type of laboratory on how can other countries adopt type of cryptocurrencies as their legal tender, with the pros and cons and everything that goes into that. But I think that it was a huge statement first to just like to make like a huge kind of entry into the crypto world and define the US and the dollar, saying like, I don't want to depend on you anymore. I can have my own system, and now I'm adopting Bitcoin. That money, but El Salvador received so much money coming after that announcement. So now there's like people getting education in technology. There are companies opening in El Salvador. Like the money that it flow into the country, it was amazing. And it was not, there's not like Bitcoin will become this big thing. Is like the country is just like leveling up their lifestyle and their education in technology and their infrastructure that they're adopting. So I think for me, that was like a very good highlight. And we will see more and more of those type of intentions to come up. Remittances, as I was telling, is dollars in US Mexican remittances in the first 6 months of the year. So you can imagine there's like a huge like opportunity for crypto to keep growing. And this goes really beyond the pricing and really beyond the speculation. I personally do not play investments in crypto. I don't play speculation, but I do believe very firmly on the technology, on what we're building, on how can that enable different services and evolve the way we're doing banking, the way we're managing our money, the way we're transacting with each other cross-border as a user, but also as a bank, commercial bank, as a country with the CBDCs. So currently my role is a global role. So after being 9 years in a market very close with the banks and with the users understanding this reality, I really think that I can add a lot of value to the team. Sometimes in the global roles, I've seen that in these big companies like MasterCard, you lose perspective, right? You develop things for the US, you develop things for UK, that it's a completely different market than developing things for India or for Latin America. So bringing this know-how to highlighting how it is like to live in another type of market, what are the needs, what the banks are asking for, what's the regulation about, something that really helps me to round up me as a professional, but also helping MasterCard to design better products that are including everyone and that are more inclusive of the products that we currently have today.
Great, thank you so much.
That's why, in my perspective, being from emerging market, but if I wasn't, I think, no, thank you.
All right. So yeah, thank you so much for highlighting the opportunity in Latin America. Thank you for joining. So we've heard from about India, Middle East, and Latin America, South America. So I would like to welcome our last speaker, our student speaker, Yongky, to the stage. He'll be talking about Southeast Asia.
All right. So good afternoon to all of you. All right, cool. So I'm from the second MBA 2023. I'll talk about so when I hear about the word Southeast Asia, the only word I can imagine is really growth. It's such a growth market with tons of potentials to unleash. Opportunities are very tremendous. And I'm going to talk about Southeast Asia. It's a complex country. It's like, imagine in Latin America, you guys speak Spanish. In Southeast Asia, we have like 8 countries and they all speak different language. And yeah, it's an ecosystem. So imagine it's like, you know, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and etc. Right? All have a share a similar culture and beauty and etc. in a different way, right? And so it's, if we talk about like, let's say population, it's growing at tremendous rate, right? GDP is crazy, right? And they create a free trade, that's why it's called Southeast Asia or ASEAN, right? And now, in terms of like growth, I'll share about probably to relate a bit more, right? I'll share about my journey in the past couple of years, 4 years, traveling all these 8 countries. So I started out from, I studied in the US before, finance and information system guy. I moved to Malaysia, and after that worked a little bit in the Singapore side, doing post-merger integration. So like if you buy a company and you have to make sure that like, you know, the other side is doing well and it's doing well, it's like this like a marriage for companies. And it's a lot of fun. And then after that, 1 year later, I moved into like the regional product type of gig where I have to work with all 8 countries, be a little bit closer with other hub as well. Hub meaning like I have digital hub based out of India, Hyderabad, another one in Iran, another one in Poland, Warsaw. So I have to coordinate with all 8 countries as well as the global team as well, the delivery services and etc. Right? Was given a lot of opportunities to basically like, I was thrown in, well, in my product gig, I was thrown into like something that I did not know of. Like it was about setting up marketing technologies from the ground up. I was, as a fresh grad, I have 0 experience, but because of such a growth opportunities, right? I was able to be given full authority of setting up my own team from 0, just me, to like group of 8, and then it just launched. And they throw me into a bigger country, which is Indonesia, country of like what, 270 million people, right? $1 trillion GDP, right? And so, which is a lot of challenge, but it's crazy. And some of the learnings that I'm gonna share is, let's keep it simple. 3, yeah. Number 1, what works in the Western countries might not work in, emerging countries. So an example, in the US, if you want to, let's say, implement something or like automate something, let's implement SAP, let's implement Salesforce or like those kind of things. 6 months, $1 billion and all that. In country of this size, 13,000 islands, some of them, don't even have like electricity and all. It doesn't work. So, I have to find the right balance between like, let's say, cost of human capital against technology, as well as like examples. I did some like, let's say, robotic processes stuff that like, instead of like an admin going to like an SAP every day, pull into data, pull into some visualization data, BI and etc. Let's use some robotics, but I train, the people to do the robotic processes. And so, and also, implementation for just like a big products might not always work. Right? You gotta find the right balance in that. 2, I think in such a growth market, hyper experimentation and innovation are at the heart of what you do, right? Here, probably you can have like market research data, but sometimes data is good if you have good data, right? In such a, complex country, huge growth, tons of potential, some of the data are like not really available because of like certain infrastructure challenges, right? And so you have to mix between like what can you infer out of the data, do testing and still be hands-on around it. Like let's say if someone wants to implement Salesforce automation. Don't just be like that guy who sits in the room and say like, okay, this is great because some digital platform, etc. Think about of a perspective of like, if I am, let's say, sales guy, what I will do in my day-to-day life and how this platform is going to help the salesperson to do the job. Same with marketing, right? Like instead of like, okay, it seems like putting advertising is great, it's great. In the US, you can do, let's say, oh, click-through rate, CTOR, pay to purchase, etc., right? But then it's also equally important to see, like, let's say, will technology advertisement is going to chase the entire offline model? It's going to be the right balance. And the only way to know that is just two things: hyper-experimentation and innovation, right? And finally, the last part, I like to brag about my country. I'm from Indonesia, so that's my country, right? 1.1 trillion, 275 million people, 17,000 islands, and these are like islands out of islands. Like if I'm here and I want to go here, I have to like take a flight here and like take some other flight or take some boats just to reach to that place, right? And so it's a very complex market, but there's a beauty out of it. And so the third message is there is no there is no startup, in my opinion, that can scale up unless they enter Indonesian market. It's true. Browse Southeast Asia as a region, as an ecosystem. They have probably like around 600 million population. Half of that is Indonesia. Yeah. And so some might say like, okay, Malaysia is this, Singapore is like more on the advanced side. Thailand has a more a touristic side. All of that without this big chunk of a country will be nothing, right? So I think to conclude, right? There's a saying: when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? So let's say in the future, just in case you're planning to, let's say, work in Southeast Asia or Middle East or like a UK, US market, I think on that, but do observe, try, do your testing right, execute, humble down a little bit. That's just because, let's say, some of you come from like developed market. Doesn't mean you're any better. Just humble down, learn, execute, and you'll get better. That's all.
Thank you so much, Yongky, for sharing. And thank you to all the speakers for taking us around the globe. Before we conclude today, I would like to invite Lourdes to say a few closing remarks. Lourdes is the executive director of our EMI program. So Lourdes, can you please
thank you.
take the stage?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Jonathan and Abdullah, for organizing the day. Thank you to the speakers. Bahia, I know that you were in the middle of an investor call, and that's why you couldn't come in person. And thank you, Louis. You have just moved to New York. And thank you also to the Cornell Tech representative of EMI fellows, Subhi Singh. And also thank you, Yongky. As Abdullah just said, you have allowed us to travel the world, also present emerging markets in another light, how many innovations are happening in emerging markets. Louis explained very well. In the middle of the crypto winter, the emerging markets continue to see in crypto a possibility to solve all the problems in living that in the middle of very variable currencies that move so much that then the moves of crypto sound familiar, and maybe is a way to reduce risk. So we have seen innovations, we have seen startups, we have seen how much technology is allowing. So many times we say technology allows emerging markets to leapfrog. So we have seen many examples. So at EMI, that's what we want to do. That's the purpose. So very delighted to have worked with you. Very happy also to see that REDtalks are back, and also that REDtalks are back during the summer. That's the first time I read a REDtalk during the summer. So very glad that you have been very entrepreneurial and also organize events during the summer. So thank you very, very much. Coming back to normal, it's taking more than expected, and you are helping this going back to normality. So thank you very much. EMI is organizing the conference on November 4th under the title of Reinventing Global Value Chains. So we are working very closely with the EMI fellows and with all of you to organize yet again a big event where we will encourage dialogue and building bridges between North and South and South and South. So thank you all, and have a great rest of the summer in Ithaca, and looking forward to meeting you in Ithaca and at Cornell Tech, preparing the conference on November 4th. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lourdes, and thank you everyone for joining today.
Thanks, Abdullah. Thanks,
you.
Tom. And I really appreciate everything.